You've tried the diets, the programs, and even the routines, but they have yo-yoed your weight and left you worse off than before. Truth is that 95% of weight loss programs fail, and most people pick up more weight after the crash diet than they had to start off with. The alternative is choosing the surgical route, gastric bypass surgery, to help you become healthier. Considered to be the biggest medical challenge of the 21st century, obesity is a worldwide phenomenon. In South Africa, 1 in every 6 people is obese. In the USA, 1 in every 3 people. In Australia and Canada, 1 in every 4.
The leading cause for obesity, it's very difficult to put this into one envelope. There are numerous causes. One of the main causes is your genetic makeup, where you come from, how you're put together, and unfortunately, none of us have got control about that. You can't choose your mother and your father, you can't choose your genes. And if you're predisposed to obesity, so it's going to be. Then there are other factors that come into play: lifestyle, external environmental factors, work situations, lack of exercise. The typical example is that the television is to blame for everything nowadays. But you know, in the olden days, when a TV didn't have a remote, you'd have to get up, go to the TV, switch channels, and go back to your seat. Now that would mean that the average male at this point in time get up and go to the TV every 2 minutes. Now this is a very simple example of how our lives have changed. People ride elevators, they are in office pools where communication is not done by getting up and walking to the office next door. It's by sending a little SMS or an email. So the Western lifestyle, or the lifestyle in general in the world, has also led to this.
Obesity is most commonly caused by a combination of excessive food energy intake, lack of physical activity, and genetic susceptibility. Other causes could include genes, pancreatic disorders, and psychiatric illness.
Children aren't playing outside as much anymore. They are playing TV games. They're not doing sport as much as they should be. And we see this obesity problem actually even starts off from a very young age. Dietary factors. I mean, this is one of the most important factors. All the foods are fortified. All the foods have added sugar. Because of the fast food industry, the easy way out, people are not cooking the good old wholesome home meal anymore. And this is another factor that plays a role. So environmental factors, dietary factors, lifestyle, genetics, all interlinked. And this has caused the epidemic of obesity to really explode all over the world.
People don't have a specific pattern of eating. They tend to skip a lot of meals. They don't have breakfast, they don't have lunch. And by the time that supper comes, they tend to overindulge. And I also don't think people don't make time to prepare food, and they would much rather go to the local fast food outlet and buy a hamburger and chips. It takes them about 5 to 10 minutes. So I think the calorie intake nowadays is just too high. People don't do exercise. That also contributes to weight gain. A lot of people, because they eat a high calorie diet and because a lot of the food is very refined, the blood sugar tend to be very unstable. On the long term, it tends to cause insulin resistance and makes them gain more weight.
I think I battled seriously with my weight for probably more than 10 years. When you are in that state, I think you battle to see the wood for the trees, because the whole time you feel as though the world is against you and things are wrong and nothing's going to make it better. And you get to a point where you think, that's it, that's me. I'm going to die fat. And until such time as you finally make a decision that something has to change no matter what. As a child, I think the idea that, you know, food is a reward. Food makes everything better. So when you're down or you failed or you've had a bad day or whatever the case may be, you eat and then you feel happy. Then I have equal lows. And so when those lows hit, you know, I would eat even more, because let's face it, you know, if half the medicine makes you feel half good, then surely double the medicine must make you feel double good. So that was my reaction to food. And obviously that caught up with me over time. And eventually you land up in that vicious cycle where you think that you're eating to make it feel better, but nothing feels better anymore and you just hate yourself.
When we eat food, our bodies turn that food into energy. Fat is produced when our intake of food is greater than the amount of energy we can use or our bodies need. This fat is stored until we need it. But in most cases, we don't use this stored energy and instead, we add more. In a typical chocolate bar, for instance, there are about 200 calories. To use this amount of energy, we would have to jog for about 30 minutes. To understand how much excess weight your body is carrying, work out your body mass index or BMI. The way it is calculated is by dividing your weight by your height. A BMI of 18.5 to 24.9 is normal. Overweight is between 25 and 29.9. Obese is having a BMI over 30, and morbidly obese is a BMI of over 35. As excess energy is being stored as fat, illnesses and disorders like cholesterol, high blood pressure, heart disease, blood clots in the lungs and legs, back pain, strokes, sleep disorders, infertility, and diabetes are common. Many morbidly obese people find walking extremely hard. This makes daily activities impossible and simple tasks become a struggle.
We see a risk and rise of all these health-related diseases in patients with obesity.
People who suffer from obesity have other common problems that extend from just physical health. Social situations become challenging because of the stigma of being overweight and unhealthy in an image-conscious world. Everyday activities become harder, flying in airplanes, social gatherings, and situations like interacting with strangers who may judge you. Many obese and overweight people feel a lack of confidence in themselves, often feeling out of control of their overeating.
The way we think about ourselves have an impact on the way that we feel about ourselves. Our feelings have an impact on our behavior, and our behavior eventually reflects on our bodies. And that is why people need to be prepared, they need to be supported. The role of the psychologist is not to sabotage a patient. The role of the psychologist initially is to make sure that the patient is compliant to the full spectrum of the program and to improve whatever needs to be improved prior to and after surgery.
I have memories of selecting certain shops to go food shopping at and just spending a stupid amount of money and switching off my phone and closing myself off from the world and literally like settling down to a binge because I felt terrible about myself and my place in the world and who I was. And you know, when you're eating chocolate, one size fits all. It just doesn't judge you.
There's a higher incidence of depression, anxiety disorders, and it also affects their interpersonal relationships on their daily basis, the way that they interact with people.
I felt at 160 kilos, I felt very insecure. The challenges were, can I fit in that chair if I go in that restaurant? My daughters would go in front of me and make sure that I could go through the space that they thought I could fit through. Going to a pool, going to a beach, you feel everyone staring at you because you're in your clothes and they're in their costumes. All I wanted to do when I was fat is I'm down to be thin so I can actually get on the floor on my hands and knees and wipe out that bit of dirt or water, because I couldn't do that before. That I could climb upstairs easily. So there was a lot that I couldn't do.
The perceptions of the public out there, often they've got these ideas that if somebody is obese, he's not a hard worker. There's also the misperceptions of patients who are obese or persons that are obese, who would think that automatically because they're obese, people don't like them. And this, of course, leads to a lot of problems with them as well.
It's hard to say what came first. Did I start putting on weight first or did I start getting depressed first? I'm not completely sure. I do think that both obesity and depression are also linked to issues of trauma in your life. And in my life, a major trauma for me was that when I was 17, my father died. And his death was reasonably sudden. It was after a very, very short illness. And I was incredibly close to him. And also he was, he was dad. He was a hero. He was invincible. He was this big guy. And I don't think that I dealt with it at the time at all. And so a couple of years later, that pain definitely resurfaced in my life in a very big way. And I think that I tried to deal with it, or tried to suppress it, I should say, by eating.
It's very important to make sure that we clarify the exact origin as to why. We refer to it as the triggers. And it's an important part of the whole psychological process for the person who goes through the whole procedure to understand what kind of things trigger them into developing a dysfunctional relationship with food and with their bodies.
Obesity often is treated by exercise and stringent dieting, but many obese people soon realize that shedding the weight is not easy, even after going through a range of diets, exercise regimens, and expensive medications. Numerous studies and research have shown that 95% of all weight loss programs fail. When all of these have failed and obesity starts becoming a serious health risk, a real option is gastric bypass surgery.
My name is Laurie Peters. I'm an author and a criminologist. I'm going to have bariatric surgery, or otherwise known as a gastric bypass. I've been struggling with my weight for quite a while now, and I came to the decision that the only way to keep it off permanently is to have the surgery, and today's D-Day. Yeah, definitely a little scared. I think at surgery you're always a little scared. I'm not particularly fond of needles. And yeah, but no, I'm okay. I'm looking forward to it.
Gastric bypass surgery, or bariatric surgery, is an intervention that will not only improve your overall health, but will prolong your life.
Gastric bypass surgery is a form of surgery where we make the stomach smaller and bypass a part of the intestine to help people lose weight.
When we eat food, our bodies have a highly developed way of absorbing nutrients and turning it into energy. Food enters our bodies, travels down the esophagus and enters the stomach. It is here that food is broken down into basic sugars, proteins and fats. The food now enters the small intestine. The small intestine has 3 sections, and each section is responsible for a different type of absorption. The first part of the small intestine is the duodenum. As food enters the duodenum, calcium, vitamin D and iron is absorbed. It is here where the pancreas and the gallbladder have ducts that carry enzymes and digestive juices that break down the food. The second part of the small intestine is the jejunum. It is here where nutrients such as sugars are absorbed. The final part of the small intestine is the ileum. It is responsible for the digestion of salts and all other nutrients.
There are a number of options for weight loss surgery. There are 2 main groups. The one is the restrictive surgeries, and what this surgery does, it actually physically restricts the amount of food that you can eat. Then you have bypass surgery, and a certain part of the intestines or the bowels are bypassed or short-circuited to help with the weight loss. We do not use pure bypass surgeries nowadays anymore. And most of the popular operations today are usually a combination of bypass surgery and restrictive surgery.
In restrictive surgery, the size of the stomach is dramatically reduced. This makes a person feel full very quickly after eating. Malabsorptive surgery is where a section of the small intestine is bypassed. This allows food to travel through the digestive system, but by bypassing a section of the small intestine, calories cannot be absorbed.
If we look at restrictive surgery, one of the most common forms of restrictive surgery now is the laparoscopic adjustable band. And this surgery basically comprises a little inflatable band that's placed around the stomach, and that just physically restricts the amount of food that anybody can eat.
Gastric banding reduces the size of the stomach. An inflatable silicone band is put around the stomach to reduce its size. The band lets through small amounts of food, and because of the reduced size of the stomach, people who have this surgery feel fuller quicker and eat less.
The gastric sleeve is an operation where a certain part of the stomach is cut off, just leaving a tube of stomach with a small little reservoir. Again, this restricts the amount of food that somebody can eat, and in that way they lose weight.
This operation is often used in children or in people with extreme obesity who are at high risk as a first-stage operation to induce weight loss. This operation can then later be converted to a Roux-en-Y gastric bypass, once the patient has lost weight and improved health.
Now, the gastric bypass procedure is a combination of restriction and bypass. And what this operation does, it divides the stomach in two stomachs, a small little stomach, which is going to be your new stomach, and then it bypasses a certain amount of small bowel. And by using the combination of these two, we can actually attain quite a significant weight loss.
The biliopancreatic diversion with duodenal switch procedure, or as it is commonly known as the BDDS procedure, is a malabsorptive surgery. It has a long-term success rate in which most people lose 75 to 80% of their excess weight. In this surgery, the normal digestive passageway is rerouted. In BDDS surgery, the stomach is reduced, but not as severely. The stomach is then connected to only a small part of the duodenum and the last part of the small intestine, the ileum.
The Roux-en-Y surgery is an operation that we perform to promote weight loss. What it entails is to divide the stomach, make a small little stomach, bypass a part of the intestine for malabsorption, where certain foodstuffs are not absorbed, and the combination of the small stomach and the bypass then eventually helps the person lose weight.
The Roux-en-Y procedure combines a restrictive surgery with a malabsorptive surgery and is considered the safest and best form of weight loss surgery. The stomach size is reduced to form a stomach pouch of between 20 to 30 milliliters. This pouch is completely separated from the rest of the stomach. The intestine is cut just below the start of the jejunum and is connected to this stomach pouch. Food now travels from the small stomach pouch directly into the jejunum. The duodenum that has been bypassed is connected further down the jejunum, and digestive juices and enzymes meet the food much later down the small intestine.
The results of the surgery speaks for itself, and that's the reason really why it's become popular with surgeons. It's not just a question of the results, but also of the quality of life that the person has after this operation. As a matter of fact, the gastric bypass patients eventually go back to a normal diet and a normal lifestyle. And if you live alongside somebody with a gastric bypass, you would never know that they actually have had this operation. They live a normal life. There are no specific dietary restrictions. There's no special diet that they have to follow. There are, of course, certain rules to the diet, and they have to stick to these rules religiously, but it's not a special diet.
A positive side effect of the surgery is that of sugar dumping. Sweets, chocolates, and high sugar favorites will often cause nausea, dizziness, sweating, palpitations, visual disturbances, a dreadful feeling, and in some cases, diarrhea. As soon as you realize that the feelings are associated with sugary treats, these soon become non-pleasurable and are not a feature in your daily diet.
One of the other reasons why a gastric bypass is a popular operation is because it is a cost-effective procedure. It can be done without undue high costs, especially because it's a laparoscopic operation and you don't need extended stay in intensive care. You've got much less problems after the operation as far as the recovery of the patient is concerned. And then, of course, the long-term cost effectiveness of the operation is that people get well. The health-related diseases go away, the diabetes go away. Of course, this is cost-effective because all these diseases are the cost drivers. That's what costs money in medicine.
My story in terms of choosing a surgical route to resolve my issues with obesity is fairly complex. I suddenly looked in the mirror and I saw myself married to this incredible person who goes to gym every day and does care about what he eats, and who was completely non-judgmental about me. He never once asked me to lose weight, never made snide remarks about my weight or anything else. But I woke up one day and looked in the mirror and thought to myself, you know what? He's really trying hard to be healthy. And what am I doing? I am condemning my husband to be widowed early. Why? Because at 125 kilograms, you know, something's got to give. And either you're going to lose weight or it's your heart that's going to give out. Or you might develop cancer or have a stroke or any one of 100 other things that could go wrong. And that's not fair. And I just realized that I wasn't holding up my end of the deal, and that the only way to move forward was to pull myself together and make a really serious attempt to sort the problem out. Another issue which made me consider surgery very, very seriously was that my husband and I had talked about whether or not we wanted to have children. And as soon as I started doing some research on the matter, I realized that obesity seriously affects your ability not only to conceive, but also to carry a child to term healthily. And so I thought that in terms of not only my own life, but really the life of my family, my new family, I had to do something different.
Like any surgery, it has complications and risks. One of the most common risks is that of blood clots in the legs during the surgery. These clots have the potential to travel up to the lungs, where they can have serious consequences. In order to counteract this complication of the surgery, you will be required to wear compression stockings that reduce the formation of blood clots, as well as taking blood thinners to further reduce the risks. Pneumatic pumps are applied to the calves during and after surgery to stimulate and help with the circulation in the lower legs to prevent blood clots.
Gastric bypass surgery does, like any other surgery, have mortality, albeit it would be very, very low. But let's look on the other side. What does gastric bypass surgery do? The comorbidities go away, the patient becomes healthy, and his mortality risk is shifted back into that of your normal population. And that's the big reason why we do this type of surgery.
Many people ask, is it worth it? Are the risks worth the benefits of losing weight? Obesity is accompanied by a range of disorders such as diabetes type 2 that requires lifelong daily management. In many people who undergo gastric bypass surgery, diabetes is a constant and demanding struggle. Most find that post-operatively, their diabetes disappears. It is with certainty that most people who have undergone this surgery say that the benefits far outweigh the risks. Many obese women develop polycystic ovary syndrome, and this is usually accompanied by infertility. Urinary incontinence is also a disabling problem in obese women, whilst in men, body fat stores estrogen, and this results in men experiencing infertility and a lack of libido. These conditions are manageable, but they are almost completely eradicated through weight loss. The surgery is not vanity. Rather, it is an intervention that will help save your life and make the quality of your life considerably better. The surgery is aimed at making you a happier, healthier person.
We know that obesity and the comorbidities of obesity are killers. What gastric bypass surgery does, it gives you back your health, gives you a new life, and it takes you out of the high-risk group of mortality. According to a study that was published from Canada, it reduces your relative risk of death of just about 90%. And that's quite significant. All your comorbidities improve after gastric bypass surgery. If we look at diabetes, 83% of diabetes type 2 is resolved after gastric bypass surgery. There's a 96% improvement in cholesterol after gastric bypass surgery. If we look at hypertension, high blood pressure, then 60% of hypertension is resolved after gastric bypass surgery. In other words, the people are cured. They don't use any medicine, they don't use their blood pressure tablets anymore. If you add to this the people who actually reduce the amount of drugs they use, you look at an improved and resolved group of 85%. Again, coming back to the diabetes, 83% of people are cured from their diabetes. This operation cures diabetes.
I was diabetic. I was on insulin twice a day, asthma, and I was on high blood pressure tablets. No more Humalog, no more asthma, no more blood pressure.
To be considered a candidate, the guidelines for gastric bypass surgery have been established. A BMI over 35 with 2 comorbidities or health-related diseases, or a BMI over 40. Your medical and psychological history are important. People who have a history of drug and alcohol abuse may find it difficult to be considered as a candidate for GBS. Lastly, It is important that you are emotionally ready for such a dramatic, life-changing intervention, and that this will require a lifelong change and commitment. The 90-day program is designed for you to become informed and understand everything there is to know about your gastric bypass surgery to ensure that you are completely ready for this life-changing intervention.
The person would then enroll into the program and then start off by going to see the dietitian, the psychologist, and then eventually going through the surgeon and all the other members of the multidisciplinary team in preparation for the gastric bypass surgery.
One of the most common questions asked when people arrive in my office is, why do I have to see the psychologist? Obviously, the operation plays a very important part of the whole process. But if your brain is not geared and if your brain is not prepared to make this adjustment, it can cause major implications and ramifications afterwards. This is not the easy way out. This is most probably the most difficult out of obesity. But we do it right from the start, the right way round.
In the pre-op stage, you actually train your body and you make the right selections pre-operatively so that when it's post-op, you literally don't have the problems knowing what you can and can't eat. You know what you can and can't eat.
The person entering the gastric bypass program will also see the dietitian. The reason they see the dietitian is to lose weight. Now you might say, well, that's exactly why I've come to do the surgery, is because I can't lose weight. We know that everybody can lose weight. We know what the problem is. Maintenance of weight loss, that's where the problem is.
Prior to surgery, we start the patients on a weight loss program. That weight loss program consists of an 8-week weight loss program. And the reason why we do that is to help them lose 10% of their body weight. That shrinks the liver and reduces the amount of intra-abdominal fat to create space for the surgeon to work inside the abdomen.
When we do the surgery, we work on the stomach, and that's underneath the liver. And if the liver is too big, it's technically just impossible to reach the stomach and perform the surgery.
Because the surgery requires the moving of the intestines and the liver, space must be created in the abdomen for the adjustment. This means that you need to lose about 10% of your current body weight. The weight loss shrinks the liver and decreases the amount of fat inside the abdomen, thereby creating space for the surgeon to perform the surgery. If it helps, think of this as your commitment to the program, and know that if you achieve the weight loss, it will be permanent.
Exercise is recommended even before surgery, not such a strenuous exercise program, but if you can, make sure that you walk a little bit. A little bit of exercise is much better than doing nothing at all. So what I recommend is just a 15-minute walk every day. If you are exercising more than that, just go on with that, keep up with the good work. But if you're not doing a thing, really, start slowly. Even if you're just sitting in the chair, marching your legs up and down as a slow start and then gradually start moving more. This is good for 2 reasons. Firstly, to get yourself cardiovascularly fit. With the anesthetic and the surgery, it's important to get the lungs in its optimal condition. Along with that, it's quite important that if you are smoking, that you need to quit immediately. The sooner you quit, the better. Remember, nicotine inhibits the healing process. So for that reason, if you can stop smoking now, it will also be much easier than quitting the day before surgery, because you're really going to put your body through a lot of hammering if you battle with all the withdrawal symptoms so shortly after surgery.
On the 4-week pre-operative diet, the people start with a liquid and a puree diet in order to prepare the intestines for surgery. And during those phases, all the food is liquidized.
An important part of the routine is to make sure that the patients follow the instructions, the dietary instructions, and obviously have their regular intakes. If they don't have the regular intake, we can't condition the body cells and the brain to follow suit. So it's incredibly important for them to get into that pattern, because afterwards they can't overstep the boundaries, and if they do, they are going to end up with major complications.
The day of surgery, when the D-Day comes, the patient will come into the consulting rooms. answer any questions that there are, and also do an ultrasound examination, measure the liver, and make sure that from a technical point, the operation is feasible. Then after that, the person will go into hospital, they're admitted to the surgical ward, and there they are prepared for the surgery.
The scrub nurse meets the patient before surgery and discusses the surgery, answers any additional questions related to the surgery, and any information about the theatre operations.
The thing with laparoscopic surgery is it's not that painful. So a week after surgery, you're so much tempted to get back into doing all the wrong things. Even though the external clips are removed after 2 weeks, the internal stitches takes much longer to heal and dissolve. And this is why I am going to hammer on it quite a bit. I will show you how to get in and out of bed, day of surgery. The next morning I am going to check up on you, and I will refresh your memory if you didn't do it correctly. And I will correct all of that, so just to make sure that you put the least amount of strain on the upper abdominal wall.
They are then seen by the anaesthetist as well for a pre-operative evaluation, making sure that he's also acquainted with all their specific health-related problems.
We look well after you. All right.
From the ward, after they've received a pre-medication, they'll be taken to theatre.
I'm okay. I'm starting to get a little bit nervous, but I'm excited and I'm okay. I'm pretty happy.
Laparoscopic surgery is what we call keyhole surgery. This type of surgery is performed without cutting you open. Although we make small little cuts, 5mm and 10mm in size. Through this, special little pipes or cannulas are placed into the abdomen, which is inflated with carbon dioxide, and then we work inside with special instruments, a video camera, a special video lens. So it's a special type of coordination, special type of surgery.
First, the bariatric surgeon will move the liver out of the way, and then the stomach will be reduced in size. Next, the surgeon cuts the jejunum and an opening into the stomach where the jejunum is inserted. The end of the duodenum is then inserted into a hole and joined to the jejunum. The entire procedure lasts less than an hour in most cases. Larger patients may require considerably more operating time.
Once the operation has been performed, again, the anaesthetist takes over, wakes up the patient, where they go to the recovery area. They are then again transferred back to the ward.
You will be made to walk as soon as possible to help in the healing process. A trained staff of nurses will help you. As a general rule, the surgery takes about 1 week recovery time. Not all of this will be spent at the hospital. As soon as you have been cleared, you will be discharged to continue your recovery at home. The nurses and support staff are trained to help and know exactly how to treat and take care of you. Recovery depends entirely on you and your healing. During recovery, it is important to be patient with yourself. During your recovery, you will need to be near your bariatric center for 1 week after being discharged in the event of complication. If there is any concern, you can be readmitted to your bariatric center within 1 hour. After the surgeon has examined you, you may return home safely after 1 week.
Yeah, I think I was actually very excited. I mean, obviously it's surgery, so you're always a little bit nervous. I was worried about pain, and I was worried about how bad it was going to be and what the possible risks could be. Everybody in the hospital was so professional that all they did was, even if you were having a little bit of jitters, they would just set you at ease. The whole environment was so pleasant. The nurses, the sisters, Prof. Heine, you know, I wasn't worried at all. I knew I was in good hands.
Immediately after you've had the surgery, I think there is a certain amount of fear around what you can eat and what you can't eat, because now all of a sudden you've got this new body and you're scared that you might eat the wrong thing and kill yourself, or it is scary because you've got this new apparatus that you're not quite sure how to work. I'm not going to lie about this. It is hard. Those first couple of weeks after surgery when you're just on liquids and purees and stuff. And so I would lie awake at night fantasizing about just being able to crunch on a cucumber because I was desperate for texture. I needed to chew something.
It was difficult at the beginning. You've got to adjust to a lot of things. But all I can say is good about it.
After they reach their ideal weight, they just go to a normal, healthy eating plan. There's no special diet that you have to follow, except for the amount of refined starches and sugars that you're taking afterwards. But it's just normal, healthy eating. I usually tell the people that it is difficult, but it's definitely achievable.
Since the surgery, I feel wonderful. Confidence-wise, I always said to my family, I feel like I'm 16 again. For me to describe to you how I feel, it's very difficult. It's like I can walk down the street and I feel no one staring at me. I can blend in like everyone else does. And to me, that's wonderful.
After your GBS, you will have the continued support of your medical team. Any problems, questions of support and encouragement that you need can be accessed.
The support system plays an incredibly important role during the whole process.
After having GBS, it will be important for you to maintain your weight, and the best form of weight management is through exercise. The physiotherapist will supply you with a range of exercises after the operation to aid in your recovery and rehabilitation. Many women who were infertile before the surgery or who had polycystic ovary syndrome will be able to conceive, and the risk of falling pregnant is high. During the first year, it is advisable to try and prevent falling pregnant.
With a rapid loss in body weight, you also lose muscle and your body changes a lot. So what I recommend is, if you can, start with a little bit of yoga or Pilates 6 to 8 weeks after the surgery.
Rehabilitation with the guidance and aid of a biokineticist is encouraged. Excellent results can be achieved, as a biokineticist is highly skilled to help with rehabilitation and the training program.
If I see the patients 1 year down the line, I invariably hear the same comments. The most common one being, had I known what I know now, I would have done this 10 years ago, and I would have had a life. The other comment often, which I actually ask them about, is, was it worth it? I say, was it worth it? What can you buy for this money? It was worth every cent, 10 times over. Money doesn't even come into the equation if I look at my life that I've got back.
Don't give up on yourself. There is a part of you that knows you deserve something better in life and that you can be more. And it is possible. There's no question about it. It is possible. So you cannot, under any circumstances, give up on the dream. The professionals really, really know what they're doing. They've done this with hundreds of people. And I promise you, if you just listen to them and you trust them and you follow the process, you will be successful.
No, I just think if you're going to do this, don't do it for anybody else, do it for yourself. So really make sure that you find the right surgeon, the right team, the right support system, and go for it, because it is a life-changing operation and you will live a much healthier life.
If there are people that are thinking of doing this, I say to them, don't think anymore, just go and do it. Because it'll be the best thing in your life to do.